Welcome to our presentation on healthcare reform. Today we are going to discuss the W-2 reporting requirements imposed by healthcare reform on employers. My name is Erica Storm and I'm an attorney with extensive experience in employee benefits and employment law. I also specialize in healthcare reform compliance for employers and health plans. The healthcare reform law that was enacted in 2010 contains a new reporting requirement for employers. Under the new rule, certain employers will be required to report the total cost of health plan coverage they provide to their employees on the employee's W-2 forms. Before we talk about the rule, let's get one important thing straight. The new W-2 reporting requirement is just that. It is a reporting requirement only. The purpose of providing this information is to provide useful and comparable information to employees on the cost of their healthcare coverage. Including the value of the coverage on the W-2 form does not make the coverage taxable to the employee, and the value of the coverage is not included as income to the employee. There have been several changes to the compliance dates for the reporting rule. The IRS made reporting optional for all employers for the 2011 tax year. Reporting has also been delayed until at least the 2013 tax year for small employers that filed fewer than 250 W-2 forms in the prior year. However, reporting is mandatory for large employers for the 2012 tax year, which means the information will need to be reported on the W-2s that are issued in January 2013. Which employers must comply with the new W-2 reporting requirement? The answer to this question is most employers. Unless an exemption applies, if the employer provides applicable health coverage to its employees, it will need to report the cost information on the W-2 forms. Along with private employers, the rule specifically applies to government entities, churches, and religious organizations. Some exceptions do exist, however. Indian tribal governments and tribally chartered corporations that are owned by an Indian tribal government are excluded from the rule. In addition, employers that sponsor plans providing coverage that is excluded from the reporting requirement will not have to follow the rule for now. However, keep in mind that it doesn't mean those employers are permanently exempt if they later sponsor another type of plan that must be reported. As we discussed, small employers are exempt from the reporting rule, at least for now. The next question for employers is, what information must be reported? Employers must report the total cost of certain types of employer-sponsored health coverage. In general, this means coverage under group health plans, including both insured and self-funded plans. It does not matter whether the employer or the employee pays for the coverage. It is the total cost of the coverage that must be reported. This means both the employer and employee paid portions. This information must be reported in Box 12 with code DD. The value of some types of coverage should not be reported on the W-2 form. These are long-term care coverage, HIPAA-accepted benefits such as accident or disability income, liability insurance, and workers' compensation, contributions to HSAs and Archer MSAs, employee salary reduction contributions to health FSAs, and benefits provided to military personnel and their families by government employers. Employers may choose to report certain types of coverage. These are coverage under a multi-employer plan, contributions to an HRA, separate dental and vision plan coverage, self-insured plans of employers that are not subject to COBRA, like church plans, and employee assistance plans, wellness programs, and on-site medical clinics. To determine the cost of coverage, make sure you include both the employer and employee paid portions of the cost. An employer may calculate the cost under a health plan using one of three methods: the COBRA applicable premium method, the premium charged method, or the modified COBRA premium method. An employer is not required to use the same method for every plan, but must use the same method for all employees covered under the same plan. Under the COBRA applicable premium method, The cost of coverage for a tax year is the same as the COBRA applicable premium for that period. This does not include the 2% administrative fee that is allowed to be charged for COBRA. For insured plans, the employer may use the premium charge method. The employer must use the premium charged by the insurer for each employee's coverage. The premium should match the employee's coverage, for example, self-only coverage or family coverage. Employers that subsidize the cost of COBRA coverage or determine the cost of coverage by applying a prior year's cost may use the modified COBRA premium method. If the employer subsidizes the cost of COBRA, the employer may determine the value of the coverage based on a reasonable, good faith estimate of the COBRA applicable premium, if that estimate is used to set the COBRA premium. Alternatively, the employer may use the COBRA applicable premium for the prior year as the value of the coverage to be reported. The healthcare reform reporting rule does not require employers to issue W-2 forms if a W-2 was not required before. For example, employers do not have to issue W-2 forms to retirees or employees without reportable compensation. Healthcare reform does not change this rule. For reporting coverage of employees who have been terminated from employment during the year, employers may use any reasonable method to report the cost of their coverage. However, the IRS has indicated that the method used must be consistent for all terminated employees. Also, there is an exception to the reporting rule for terminated employees who request their W-2s before the end of the year. The cost of health coverage does not have to be reported on those W-2 forms. In order to comply with the W-2 reporting requirements, employers should take several steps. First, count the number of W-2 forms required to be filed to determine if you qualify for the temporary small employer exemption. If not, determine whether you sponsor plans providing the type of coverage that must be reported. Then, determine the cost for that coverage using one of the three methods we discussed. If you work with a payroll provider, coordinate with that provider to make sure the appropriate information is collected during the year and then reported on the W-2 form. Your broker has a full suite of documents to help you with W-2 reporting compliance. Please contact your broker for assistance with all of your healthcare reform compliance needs. Thank you for your time today. I hope you now have a better understanding of the rules for W-2 form reporting under healthcare reform.